December 15th, 2023. I was wiping down the servers in Marcus Thornwell's private data center when he barked at the room full of investors. "Hack this system and I'll wire you 100 million right now. It's literally impossible." I didn't look up from my mop bucket, but my fingers were already moving across my hidden laptop, and exactly 47 seconds later, every screen in that billion-dollar fortress went completely black. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The silence that followed was the kind that makes your ears ring. 12 venture capitalists, 3 Pentagon contractors, and the CTO of the largest defense AI company in North America just watched their presentations vanish mid-sentence. PowerPoint's gone. Financial projections erased. The entire demo of Thornwell Technologies' unhackable quantum encryption system just blinked out of existence, like it had been swallowed by a digital black hole. Marcus Thornwell, 6'3", custom Italian suit, ego the size of Silicon Valley, stood frozen at the front of the room. His clicker dangled uselessly in his hand. Behind him, the massive 98-inch display that had been showing real time. Blockchain security protocols now showed nothing but a single blinking cursor and 3 words in green text. "Thanks for the 100 meters. What the hell just happened?" Someone whispered from the back row. Marcus spun toward his chief security officer, Derek Van Court, whose face had gone the color of printer paper. "Fix it," Marcus hissed. Now, Derek's fingers flew across his laptop. Nothing. He pulled out his phone, tried to access the backup systems remotely. The screen flickered once, then displayed a simple error message. "Access denied." "Nice try, though." I kept my head down, spraying cleaner on an already spotless server rack, my heart hammering so hard I was sure someone would hear it. My laptop, hidden inside a hollowed-out cleaning supply caddy that nobody ever looked at. Twice, was still executing. Commands through a mesh network I'd built. Over 6 months, using discarded router parts and Mom's employee Wi-Fi. Credentials. One of the investors, a woman in a charcoal blazer with the kind of severe bob that screamed, "I've destroyed startups before breakfast," stood up. "Marcus, we just flew in from Singapore to see your impenetrable security demonstration. This better be part of the show." "It's not," Marcus said, his voice tight enough to snap. He yanked his phone from his pocket and started barking orders. "Get Riley from infrastructure on the line. I want every access log from the past hour. I want to know if someone sneezed near our firewall. That's when I made my first mistake." I glanced up, just for a second. Just long enough to see the absolute chaos unfolding. Grown men in $1,000 watches, frantically unplugging cables. The CTO literally on his knees, trying to reboot the primary server manually. And Marcus Thornwell, the man who'd spent the last 90 minutes explaining why his system was theoretically unhackable by any entity on Earth, looking like someone had just stolen his oxygen. Our eyes met. Just for a fraction of a second, I looked away immediately, back to my cart, but something in his expression shifted. Not recognition. He'd never actually looked at me before, not in the 8 months Mom and I had been cleaning his headquarters. But something else. Suspicion, maybe. Or just the paranoid desperation of a man watching his $8 billion valuation evaporate in real time. "Who else is in this building?" he demanded, turning to his head of security, a brick-shaped former Marine named Paul Hendricks. "Just essential personnel for the demo," Paul said, already scrolling through his tablet. "Your team, the investors. Catering staff is gone," and he paused, his eyes landing on me for the first time all night. "Building services." Marcus's gaze swept the room and landed on me like a spotlight. "You," he said. "Not my name." He didn't know my name. "What are you doing here?" I straightened up, kept my face neutral, channeled every ounce of my mother's steady calm. "Scheduled cleaning, sir. 3rd Thursday of every month. Your assistant confirmed it this morning." "She's right," Paul muttered, checking his security logs. "Janitorial access approved at 6:45 p.m. Elena Vasquez and..." He squinted at the screen. "Daughter Sofia Vasquez." Get them out, Marcus snapped. Everyone out except the core tech team. Now, I nodded, grabbed my cart with hands that I forced not to shake, and started wheeling toward the exit. The laptop inside was still running, still executing the final sequence I'd coded 3 weeks ago. During a late-night shift, when everyone thought, I was just emptying trash bins and vacuuming under desks as I pushed through the heavy glass doors into the hallway. I heard Marcus's voice rising behind me. I want a full forensic audit. I want to know if this was external, internal, or an act of God. And I want whoever did this to be found before sunrise. The doors sealed shut with a pneumatic hiss. I was alone in the corridor. Fluorescent lights humming overhead, security cameras tracking my every move. I should have been terrified. Should have been running. Should have deleted every trace and prayed they'd never connect the dots. Instead, I smiled, because Marcus Thornwell had just made this personal, and he had no idea that the cleaning lady's kid he just dismissed had access to something far more valuable than his precious $100 million. I had access to everything 8 months earlier. March 2023. Mom's hands were cracked and bleeding when she came home that first night from Thornwell Technologies. She'd been scrubbing floors for 16 hours straight, trying to prove herself worthy of the contract that paid 3 times what her old office building gig did. She soaked her hands in ice water while I made her tea, and she smiled like this was the best thing that ever happened to us. Sophia, Mija, this job, it's different, she said in Spanish, her voice tired but hopeful. The building is beautiful, all glass and steel. They have 17 floors, and every single one is cleaner than a hospital. Mr. Thornwell, he built something special there. I didn't tell her what I'd read about Marcus Thornwell online, that he'd made his first billion by acquiring struggling tech startups, gutting their staff, and reselling the patents, that 3 different whistleblowers had accused him of stealing proprietary code, that his revolutionary quantum encryption system bore a suspicious resemblance to an MIT research project whose lead scientist had died in a car accident 2 years prior. I just kissed her forehead and said, "That's great, Mom." What I didn't know then, what neither of us knew, was that Thornwell Technologies needed cleaners who could pass the highest level security clearance. Because Marcus Thornwell didn't just run a tech company. He ran a digital fortress that housed classified government contracts, encrypted communications for Fortune 500 companies, and security systems that protected everything from nuclear facilities to the personal data of 43 million Americans, and he needed someone to empty the trash bins in rooms where that data lived. That someone was my mother, Elena Vasquez, 52 years old, cleaned houses since she was 15, came to America with nothing but a 9th grade education and the kind of work ethic that made her bones ache every morning. She didn't understand computers, could barely send a text message, but she could scrub, organize, and make any space spotless, and she was invisible. That's what Marcus Thornwell wanted. Invisible people. Me? I was the opposite of what he wanted, which is exactly why he never saw me coming. I learned to code when I was 11. Teaching myself Python from YouTube videos on a laptop I'd assembled from parts I found in a school dumpster. By 13, I was taking college-level computer science courses online under a fake name because no scholarship program believed a cleaning lady's kid from a rent-controlled apartment in Eastie, Palo Alto could possibly be that good. By 16, I'd already identified and reported 7 security vulnerabilities to major companies through bug bounty programs, anonymously, because I couldn't risk anyone tracking me down and realizing I was doing this from public library computers and coffee shop Wi-Fi. By 18, I'd been accepted to Stanford's computer science program with a full scholarship. I deferred twice. Because Mom got sick, because the medical bills piled up, because somebody had to keep the lights on while she recovered from pneumonia that winter when she worked herself into exhaustion. So instead of walking to Stanford's campus like I'd dreamed, I walked next to my mother into Thornwell Technologies at 6 p.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Officially, I was there to help her finish faster so she could get home and rest. Unofficially, I was there because I'd never seen security systems like these before, and I wanted to understand them. Marcus Thornwell had built his empire on one core promise: absolute digital security. His marketing materials claimed his quantum-encrypted servers were immune to any breach by foreign governments, criminal organizations, or rogue actors. He testified before Congress. He'd consulted for the Department of Defense. He'd charged clients 7 figures annually for protection he swore was unbreakable. I'd spent 3 months just observing, watching the security protocols, noting the camera blind spots, learning the patterns of the night staff when Derek Vancourt did his rounds, when the security guards switched shifts, when the automated backup systems ran their cycles. Most importantly, I'd spent those months being completely, utterly forgettable. I wore baggy clothes that hid my age. I kept my hair tied back in a simple ponytail. I never made eye contact. I said, "Yes, sir," and "Excuse me," and pushed my cleaning cart like I was part of the furniture. The engineers walking past didn't see a Stanford-qualified computer scientist. They saw a teenage girl with a mop, probably couldn't even spell algorithm. Definitely not worth a second glance. But I saw everything. I saw how the lead developer, a cocky MIT graduate named Trevor Ashford, left his credentials written on a post-it note under his keyboard, changed weekly, but always some variation of his dog's name plus the current date. I saw how the security team used the same master password for the building's physical access panels because Derek Vancourt couldn't be bothered to memorize different codes for different zones. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I saw how Marcus himself, despite running a cybersecurity empire, used his birthday backwards as his personal device PIN, and how he'd shout it across the office when his assistant needed to unlock his iPad for presentations. But more than the passwords and the sloppy security hygiene, I saw the arrogance, the absolute certainty that they were untouchable, that their system was perfect because Marcus Thornwell said it was perfect, and Marcus Thornwell was a genius, and geniuses don't make mistakes. I started small, tested the Wi-Fi networks, mapped the firewall architecture, built a profile of their security infrastructure, one tiny piece at a time, like assembling a puzzle in the dark. Then I found the legacy access point. It was hidden in a sub-basement server room that hadn't been updated since 2019, back when Thornwell Technologies was a quarter of its current size. The room was scheduled for decommission, but nobody had actually done the work. The servers were still running, still connected to the main network through an outdated switch that wasn't even listed in the current security documentation. It was a back door. Unintentional, forgotten, but wide open. I didn't exploit it. Not yet, because I wasn't trying to steal data or cause chaos. I was trying to understand something that had bothered me since the day I first walked into that building. How could someone so sloppy, so careless with the fundamentals, convince the entire world he was a security genius? The answer came 6 months in, during a late-night cleaning shift in Marcus's private office. I was emptying his trash. Actual trash. Crumpled papers and empty energy drink cans, when I saw the email thread printed out and discarded. It was from someone named Dr. Sarah Chen, dated 3 years prior. The subject line, "Unauthorized use of my research, cease and desist." I took a photo with my phone. Read it later that night. Then I started digging. Dr. Sarah Chen had been a cryptography researcher at MIT. She'd developed the core algorithm that Marcus's quantum encryption was based on. She died in a car accident 14 months after sending that email. Her research had been absorbed into a shell company, which was later acquired by Thornwell Technologies. No credit, no acknowledgement, just buried under layers of corporate paperwork. Marcus Thornwell hadn't built an empire on genius. He'd built it on theft, and suddenly I wasn't just curious anymore. I was angry. That's when I started building my real plan. Not to break his system for fun, but to expose him for exactly what he was, a fraud in an expensive suit, protected by lawyers and PR teams, and the assumption that nobody would dare challenge him, especially not a cleaning lady's daughter. I spent the next 2 months building my access. Custom malware designed to hide in plain sight. A mesh network using hardware I salvaged and modified. Backdoors within backdoors, each one isolated so that even if they found one, they'd never find the others. And then Marcus Thornwell handed me the perfect opportunity. He announced a private demonstration for investors, a chance to show off his unhackable system to the people who'd just committed $400 million to his Series C funding round. He was going to brag. He was going to show off. And he was going to offer $100 million to anyone who could breach his fortress. I didn't want his money, but I definitely wanted to watch his face when someone finally called his bluff, so I typed. And his screen went dark. And now, walking out of that data center with my cleaning cart and my hidden laptop, I knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning. The first retaliation came 36 hours after the blackout. Mom's phone rang at 4:47 a.m. on a Saturday. I heard her voice from my bedroom, confused at first, then worried. When she knocked on my door, her face was pale. "They're saying there's a problem with my background check," she said quietly. "They want me to come in on Monday morning, early, before my shift." I sat up. "What kind of problem?" She shook her head. "They didn't say, just that it's irregular, that someone flagged something." Her hands were shaking. "Sophia, I've never done anything wrong. I don't even have a parking ticket." I knew exactly what this was. Marcus Thornwell couldn't find his hacker, so he was going after the only people who'd been in that room. And my mother was the easiest target, an immigrant with an accent, someone who couldn't afford lawyers, someone who'd disappear without anyone important noticing. "It's going to be okay, Mom," I said, taking her hands. "I promise," but I wasn't sure it would be. Monday morning I went with her. Not inside, they'd never allow that. But I sat in my car in the parking garage with my laptop, monitoring the building's internal communications through a back door I'd kept open specifically for this. The meeting was in HR, not with the woman who'd hired Mom, but with someone new. Bradley Patterson, Senior Director of Risk Management. His LinkedIn showed a background in corporate investigations and a smile that had never reached his eyes in a single photograph. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see the email he sent immediately afterward to Derek Van Court. "Initial interview complete. Subject denies knowledge. Recommend increased surveillance and employment termination if cooperation is not forthcoming." Subject. They were calling my mother a subject. The next email went to Marcus directly. "Cleaning stuff may be vector. Daughter has technology access at home. Public library records show extensive computer usage under Sofia Vasquez's name. Recommend investigation." My blood went cold. They were building a case, not based on evidence. They didn't have any, but based on the fact that we were convenient, we were vulnerable, and we were there. Mom came out 20 minutes later, her eyes red but dry. She'd learned a long time ago that crying in front of people like Bradley Patterson only made things worse. "They asked about you," she said once we were in the car, "about what you do on computers, whether you've ever been in the server rooms, whether I've seen you—" She paused, choosing words carefully. "Doing anything unusual." "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That you helped me clean. That you're a good girl who studies hard. That you would never—" Her voice cracked. "Sophia, did you do something?" I looked at my mother, at the woman who'd worked herself to exhaustion so I could have a life she never had, and I made a choice. "No, Mom, I didn't do anything. But someone there is trying to cover up their own mistakes by blaming us. And I'm not going to let them." She studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. She didn't believe me entirely, mothers always know, but she trusted me. That was enough. The harassment escalated over the next week. Wednesday, Mum's access badge mysteriously stopped working. She had to wait in the lobby for 40 minutes while security verified her credentials, even though she'd worked there for 8 months without a single issue. Thursday, her cleaning cart was searched. thoroughly. They photographed the contents, made her sign documentation confirming every item, told her that protocol required random inspections. When she got home, I checked the photos she'd nervously taken with her phone. They'd planted something, a small USB drive tucked under the spray bottles. She'd been smart enough to notice it didn't belong and left it there, untouched. Friday, they tried to get me directly. I was in the parking garage, waiting for Mom's shift to end, when two men in Thornwell Technologies security uniforms approached my car. One was Paul Hendricks, the head of security. The other I didn't recognize, probably contracted muscle. Paul knocked on my window. I rolled it down exactly 2 inches. "Sofia Vasquez," he asked, though he obviously knew who I was. "Yes? We need to ask you a few questions about your presence in the building on December 15th. You can answer here, or we can arrange a more formal conversation downtown." Downtown. Like they were actual police. Like they had any authority beyond this parking garage. "Am I being detained?" I asked calmly. Paul's jaw tightened. "This is private property. We have every right to ask questions, which I'm not required to answer. I'm sitting in my car in a public parking structure, waiting for my mother to finish her shift. Unless you're accusing me of something specific, I'd appreciate it if you'd step back from my vehicle." The second man leaned down, getting close to my window. His breath fogged the glass. "You think you're smart, don't you, kid?" I looked directly at him, channeling every ounce of my mother's quiet strength. "I think you're harassing a teenager in a parking garage because your boss can't admit his unhackable system got hacked. That's not smart. That's desperate." Paul held up a hand, stopping his partner from responding. He studied me for a long moment, and I could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. He was ex-military, probably saw a dozen tours, definitely knew the difference between a guilty person and someone who was just tired of being pushed around. "Your mother's contract is under review," he said finally. "Might want to have her start looking for other opportunities." Then they walked away. I sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel, counting to 50 to make sure they were really gone. Then I opened my laptop and did something I'd been avoiding because I knew it would make things exponentially worse. I accessed Marcus Thornwell's personal email server, not the corporate one. That was too obvious, too monitored. His private account. The one he used for things he didn't want his own security team to see. The one protected by his birthday backwards. Pin in a security question about his first pet's name that I'd pulled from a puff piece interview in TechCrunch. 3 years ago, what I found made the harassment of my mother look like a parking ticket. Marcus was negotiating a sale of Thornwell Technologies to a Chinese conglomerate for $4.7 billion. The same Marcus Thornwell who'd testified before Congress about protecting American technological interests. The same one who'd built his reputation on securing U.S. government contracts. But it got worse. The sale agreement included a clause transferring all existing encryption keys to the new owners. Every client, every government contract, every piece of data his system was supposedly protecting would be handed over to a foreign entity the moment the deal closed. And it was scheduled to close in 43 days. There were other emails too. Correspondence with lawyers about NDAs for former employees who'd made allegations. Payments to a PR firm specializing in reputation management and whistleblower mitigation. A thread with someone named Viktor Kozlov discussing alternative solutions for personnel problems. And when I cross-referenced Kozlov's name, he came up in 3 different articles about corporate espionage and one unsolved disappearance of a tech journalist in Budapest. Marcus Thornwell wasn't just a fraud and a thief. He was selling out every client who'd trusted him, and he was willing to destroy anyone who got in his way, including my mother. I took screenshots of everything, organized them into encrypted folders, backed them up to 3 different secure cloud services under fake accounts. Then I did something that scared me more than anything I'd ever done. I sent one email, anonymous, routed through 7 different proxy servers, to a journalist named Rebecca Torres at the Washington Standard. She'd broken the story about defense contractor fraud 2 years ago and had a reputation for protecting sources. The email was simple. Marcus Thornwell is selling Thornwell Technologies and all client encryption keys to foreign buyers. I have proof. Are you interested? I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Her reply came back in 11 minutes. Very interested. How do we talk? I set up an encrypted chat channel and sent her the first document, just one email from Marcus's server. Enough to prove I had access to something real. Not enough to show my full hand. 20 minutes later, this is explosive. I need to verify authenticity. Can you provide corroborating evidence? I could. I had gigabytes of it. But I also knew that the moment this story went public, Marcus would know someone had breached his personal server. He'd go scorched earth. He'd blame my mother, fire her, maybe worse, unless I moved first. I typed back, "You'll get everything, but I need 3 days. There's someone I need to protect first." Rebecca's response, "Understood. But if this is real, people need to know. Don't wait too long." I closed the laptop and looked up to see Mom walking toward the car, moving slower than usual, carrying her cleaning supplies with shoulders that sagged under more than just physical weight. She got in, set her bag down, and said quietly, "They told me today might be my last shift. They're deciding." I reached over and took her hand. "Mom, how would you feel about not working there anymore?" She looked at me, confused. "Mia, we need the money. You know that. I know. But what if I told you that Marcus Thornwell is about to have much bigger problems than who cleans his offices? And what if I told you that we're going to make sure that when everything falls apart, you're nowhere near the blast radius?" She searched my face, and for the first time I saw understanding dawn. Not of the technical details, but of the fundamental truth. Her daughter was fighting back. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I started the car. "Something he'll never see coming. Because he still thinks we're invisible, and we're not," I smiled. "No, Mom, we're just patient." As we drove out of the parking garage, I saw Paul Hendricks watching from his office window. He had his phone to his ear, probably reporting to Marcus that we'd left, that nothing unusual had happened, that the cleaning lady and her daughter were contained. He had no idea that the fuse was already lit. And in 72 hours, Marcus Thornwell's entire world was going to detonate. The termination letter arrived by courier at 6:23 a.m. on Tuesday morning. Mom was making coffee when the knock came. I signed for the envelope. Certified mail, legal letterhead, the kind of delivery designed to intimidate. She didn't even need to open it to know what it said. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the single page. "Effective immediately," she read aloud, voice barely above a whisper. "Due to irregularities in security protocols and ongoing investigation into potential data breach involvement, your contract with Thornwell Technologies is hereby terminated. Final payment will be processed within 30 days, pending resolution of internal review." Pending resolution. They were holding her last paycheck hostage. "Misha, what are we going to do?" Mom asked, and for the first time in my life, I heard genuine fear in her voice. Not worry, fear. The rent was due in 9 days. We had $847 in our bank account. Her unemployment claim would take weeks to process, and with this security investigation on her record, no other tech company in Silicon Valley would touch her. I took the letter from her hands and read the fine print at the bottom. The signature was Derek Van Court's, but the legal language had Marcus's fingerprints all over it. This wasn't just termination, it was a threat. They were daring us to fight back, to lawyer up, knowing we couldn't afford to. "We're going to finish this," I said quietly. "Finish what?" I looked at my mother, really looked at her. 52 years old, working herself to exhaustion her entire life, never asking for anything except a chance. And now some billionaire fraud was trying to destroy her because she'd had the misfortune of being in the wrong room when his empire started cracking. "Mom, remember when I was 14 and you asked me why I spent so much time on computers?" She nodded slowly. "You said, 'Sophia, whatever you're learning, make sure you use it to build something good.' You remember that?" "I remember. I built something. And today we're going to use it." I pulled out my laptop and opened a secure folder. I'd labeled Project Lighthouse because what I was about to do was going to illuminate every dark corner of Marcus Thornwell's empire. First call, Rebecca Torres, she answered on the second ring. I was starting to think you'd gotten cold feet. Change of plans, I said. We're moving today. How fast can you verify documents and get a story to print? A pause. Depends on the documents. What happened? They fired my mother this morning. They're holding her paycheck and threatening her with complicity in their own security failure. So we're done being careful, I heard typing on her end. Send me everything you have. I'll need at least 6 hours to verify sources and get legal clearance. Probably more for something this big. Can you give me until midnight? You have until 6 p.m. After that, I'm releasing everything myself. That's not enough time to... Rebecca, Marcus Thornwell is selling his company and every encryption key he controls to foreign buyers in 42 days. His clients include the Department of Defense, the NSA, and half the Fortune 100. If we wait, he disappears into a villa somewhere with no extradition treaty and billions of dollars. So yes, 6 hours is enough. Make it work. Another pause. Longer this time. You're absolutely certain about this? Once we publish, there's no taking it back. For either of us. I've been certain since the day I found out he stole his core technology from a dead researcher. Send me your secure upload link. I spent the next 90 minutes organizing everything into a single, compressed archive. Emails showing the planned sale to the Chinese conglomerate. Documentation of the stolen research from Dr. Sarah Chen. Financial records proving Marcus had paid off former employees who'd threatened to expose him. Screenshots of his unhackable system's actual architecture, which was riddled with vulnerabilities he'd deliberately hidden from clients. And the piece de résistance, a complete access log showing that on December 15, 2023, at 8:47 p.m., the system breach had originated from the legacy server room, the one that wasn't even supposed to be connected to the main network anymore. The one that proved Marcus's security was a house of cards, held together with duct tape and arrogance. I uploaded everything to Rebecca's secure server. Then I did something that would either be brilliant or completely insane. I called Thornwell Technologies main line. Thank you for calling Thornwell Technologies. This is Amanda. How may I direct your call? Marcus Thornwell's office, please. May I ask who's calling? Sophia Vasquez. He'll want to take this. The line went quiet for a moment. She was probably checking some list of flagged names. Then please hold. 30 seconds of generic hold music. Then a click. This is Derek Vancourt, not Marcus. Of course not. Marcus didn't take calls from the help. I need to speak with Marcus directly. I said, that's not possible. Whatever you need to discuss, you can discuss with me. Fine. Then you can tell him that I'm the one who hacked his system on December 15th. Tell him I have complete access to his personal email server, his financial records, and documentation of his planned sale to foreign buyers. And tell him that if my mother's final paycheck isn't processed and deposited by 2 p.m. today, along with a formal apology letter clearing her of any wrongdoing, I'm releasing everything to the press. The silence on the other end was deafening. You're bluffing, Derek said finally, but his voice had lost its edge. Am I? Check your personal laptop, Derek, the one you use from home. Check the file I just placed in your downloads folder labeled, You Should Update Your Passwords. TXT. Read it. Then decide if I'm bluffing. I heard typing, frantic clicking, then a very quiet, very creative string of profanity. The file I'd planted contained a single line. Your anniversary date is a terrible password, and your wife deserves better than someone who uses it for classified access. Sophia, how did you... We'll have you arrested. This is a federal crime. Multiple federal crimes, probably, I agreed. But here's the thing, Derek, I'm 18 years old. First-time offender, daughter of an immigrant who was wrongfully terminated. I'll get a slap on the wrist and probably a book deal. Marcus, on the other hand, is selling state secrets to foreign adversaries while lying to federal agencies. That's treason territory. So ask yourself, who's really in trouble here? What do you want? I already told you. My mother's money, her reputation, And Marcus needs to answer one question for me personally. What question? Put him on the phone and you'll find out. Another pause. Muffled conversation in the background. Then a new voice, smooth and cold as polished marble. This is Marcus Thornwell. You've made a very serious mistake, young lady. Funny, I was about to say the same thing to you. You made a serious mistake when you went after my mother. Your mother was collateral damage in a necessary security investigation. If she'd done nothing wrong, she had nothing to fear. Interesting philosophy from someone who's about to sell American defense encryption to the highest bidder. Tell me, Marcus, did Dr. Sarah Chen have nothing to fear when she tried to stop you from stealing her research? The silence that followed was different, heavier. I'd hit something real. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, but the smoothness was gone from his voice. Yes, you do. You stole her quantum encryption algorithm? When she threatened to sue, you buried her in legal fees until she couldn't afford to fight anymore. And when she died 8 months later, you swooped in and acquired her research through a shell company. I have the emails, Marcus. All of them. You have nothing. Whatever you think you found, it's inadmissible, illegally obtained, and already in the hands of the Washington Standard's investigative team. Rebecca Torres says hello, by the way. I heard something crash in the background, probably a phone or a coffee mug meeting a wall at high velocity. You want a war? Marcus's voice was shaking now. You have no idea what you've started. I have lawyers who will bury you and your mother so deep. 2 p.m., Marcus. My mother's check and a signed letter of apology. Or at 6 p.m., the whole world learns that the great Marcus Thornwell is a thief, a fraud, and a traitor. Your choice. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking. Mom was staring at me from the kitchen doorway, eyes wide. Sophia, what did you just do? I called his bluff, Mom. Now we wait and see if he's smart enough to fold. My phone rang immediately. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. And again. By the 10th call, I turned it off completely. At 1:47 p.m., Mom's phone dinged. Bank notification. Deposit of $8,400, her final paycheck plus a severance package that was clearly hush money. At 1:53 p.m., an email arrived from Thornwell Technologies HR, a formal letter stating that Elena Vasquez had been terminated due to restructuring, with no mention of security investigations or wrongdoing. It wasn't an apology, but it was close enough to legal cover. At 2:15 p.m., my phone, now turned back on, rang again. Rebecca Torres. We're going to print, she said. Front page online edition goes live at 6 p.m. Print edition hits doorsteps tomorrow morning. Legal approved everything. This is going to be the biggest tech scandal since Theranos. Good, I said. Sophia, you need to prepare yourself. Once this goes public, there's going to be federal investigations, congressional hearings, probably criminal charges for Thornwell. But there might also be scrutiny on how you obtained this information. You need a lawyer. Already on it. I wasn't, but I would be. One more thing, Rebecca said. Why did you do this? Really? It wasn't just about your mother, was it? I thought about Dr. Sarah Chen, dying broke and broken, while Marcus Thornwell bought his third mansion. I'd thought about every person who'd ever been called just the cleaning lady or just a kid, and dismissed like they didn't matter. Because someone had to, I said finally. And it turns out I could. At 6 p.m. exactly, the Washington Standard's website updated with a headline that would change everything. Tech billionaire Marcus Thornwell faces treason allegations, stolen research. Foreign sale of U.S. defense encryption keys exposed by 6:03 p.m. It had been shared 10,000 times. By 6:10 p.m., CNN picked it up. By 6:15 p.m., federal agents were entering Thornwell Technologies headquarters with warrants. And me, I sat on our apartment couch next to my mother, watching the news coverage on our 12-year-old TV. And for the first time in 8 months, I felt like I could breathe. The first congressional hearing was scheduled for January 8th, 2024, exactly 24 days after the Washington Standard story broke. I sat in a waiting room outside the House. Committee on Oversight and Reform, wearing a blazer Mum had bought me from a thrift store, and shoes that pinched my toes. My court-appointed attorney, a sharp woman named Diana Reeves, who'd taken my case pro bono after reading the headlines, sat beside me reviewing notes. "Remember," Diana said quietly, "you're here as a witness, not a defendant. They want information about Thornwell's activities, not to prosecute you. Yet, I repeated, the FBI is still deciding whether to charge you with unauthorized computer access. But between you and me, they've got bigger fish to fry. Just answer honestly. Don't volunteer information they don't ask for, and for God's sake, don't try to be clever." The doors opened. An aide gestured us inside. The hearing room was smaller than I expected from watching C-SPAN, but somehow more intimidating. Rows of seats packed with journalists, legal observers, and cybersecurity experts. At the front, 11 members of Congress sat elevated behind a curved desk that made them look like judges at a trial. And sitting 3 rows behind me, surrounded by 4 lawyers in suits that cost more than our annual rent, Marcus Thornwell. He looked different than he had in his office. Smaller somehow. His custom suit couldn't hide the fact that he'd lost weight. The silver hair was perfect, but his hands kept fidgeting with a pen, clicking it obsessively. Our eyes met for half a second. His expression was pure hatred. Chairwoman Patricia Drummond, a representative from Massachusetts with a reputation for eviscerating tech CEOs, and called the hearing to order. "We're here to investigate allegations of corporate espionage, misappropriation of classified technologies, and potential violations of the International Traffic in Arms regulations. Ms. Vasquez, you've been granted limited immunity for your testimony today. Do you understand what that means?" "Yes, ma'am. It means I can testify truthfully without my words being used to prosecute me, as long as I don't lie under oath." "Correct. Let's begin." She adjusted her reading glasses. "How did you first gain access to Thornwell Technologies' secure systems?" I took a breath. This was it, through a legacy server in Sub-Basement 2 that hadn't been properly decommissioned. It was still connected to the main network through an outdated switch that wasn't listed in any current security documentation. One of the representatives, a younger congressman from California, leaned forward. "You're saying their security had a blind spot?" "Not a blind spot, sir. A door, wide open. Anyone with physical access to that room and basic networking knowledge could have done what I did." Murmuring rippled through the room. I saw Derek Vancourt, sitting 2 rows behind Marcus, close his eyes. Chairwoman Drummond continued. "And what did you do once you gained access?" "Initially, I just observed, mapped the network architecture. I wanted to understand how a system that was marketed as unhackable actually functioned. What I found was," I paused, choosing my words carefully, "concerning." "How so?" "The quantum encryption that Thornwell Technologies marketed as proprietary wasn't actually quantum encryption at all. It was a modified version of an algorithm developed by Dr. Sarah Chen at MIT. The modifications made it less secure, not more. They'd removed safety protocols to make it faster, which introduced vulnerabilities that a competent hacker could exploit." Another representative jumped in. "Do you have evidence of this claim?" Diana nodded to me. I pulled out a tablet and brought up side-by-side code comparisons I'd prepared. This is Dr. Chen's original algorithm from her 2019 research paper. This is the code, currently running on Thornwell Technologies servers. You can see where they've stripped out the validation loops and replaced them with hard-coded bypass keys. I handed the tablet to an aide, who passed it to the committee. They studied it for several long moments. "For those of us who aren't programmers," Chairwoman Drummond said, "what does that mean in plain English?" "It means Marcus Thornwell sold his clients a security system that was fundamentally broken. He knew it was broken, and he charged them millions of dollars anyway." The room erupted, journalists typing furiously, lawyers whispering to each other. One of Marcus's attorneys shot to his feet. "Objection! This witness has no credentials to evaluate. This isn't a trial, counselor." Chairwoman Drummond cut him off. "Sit down," she turned back to me. "Miss Vasquez, what are your qualifications to make this assessment?" I was accepted to Stanford's computer science program with a full academic scholarship. I've identified and reported 7 major security vulnerabilities through bug bounty programs, and I successfully breached Mr. Thornwell's unhackable system in 47 seconds. A congressman from Texas actually laughed. 47 seconds? Yes, sir. Most of that was typing time. Even Chairwoman Drummond cracked a slight smile before recovering her stern expression. Let's talk about the foreign sale. How did you discover Mr. Thornwell's plan to sell Thornwell Technologies to Chinese buyers? I accessed his personal email server. I know that was illegal, and I take full responsibility for that action. But what I found was evidence that he was planning to transfer all client encryption keys, including keys for DoD and NSA contracts, to a foreign entity. That seemed more important than the legality of how I found it. Walk us through what you found, specifically. For the next 40 minutes, I laid it out, email by email, contract clause by clause. I explained how the sale was structured through shell companies to hide the Chinese ownership, how Marcus had lied to his own board about the buyer's identity, how he'd personally negotiated terms that would give the foreign entity complete access to every system Thornwell Technologies protected. The committee members' faces grew progressively. Grimmer then came the documents about Dr. Sarah Chen. Also found evidence that the core technology Mr. Thornwell built his company on was stolen. Dr. Chen sent a cease and desist letter in 2020. She died in a car accident. 14 months later, 3 weeks after her death, Mr. Thornwell's shell company acquired the rights to her research from her estate for $50,000, a fraction of its actual value. Do you have that cease and desist letter? Chairwoman Drummond asked. Yes, ma'am. Along with Dr. Chen's original research notes, patent applications, and email correspondence with her attorney. She was preparing to sue when she died. I watched Marcus as I said this. His face had gone completely white. One of his lawyers stood again. Chairwoman, my client has not been given the opportunity to respond to these unsubstantiated. Your client will have his turn to testify, Counselor. Right now we're hearing from Miss Vasquez. She turned back to me. Did you find anything suggesting Mr. Thornwell had involvement in Dr. Chen's death? No, ma'am. The police report indicated it was an accident. She lost control on a wet road. But I did find emails where Mr. Thornwell discussed the accident with his legal team. One email, dated 3 days after her death, said, "Problem resolved. Proceed with acquisition." The silence in the room was absolute. That's enough for now, Chairwoman Drummond said quietly. We'll take a 15-minute recess. During the break, I sat in the hallway with Diana. My hands were shaking from adrenaline. You did good there, she said. Better than good. You just handed them a roadmap to take down one of the biggest frauds in tech industry history. What happens now? Now, the FBI builds their case. DOJ decides what charges to file. And you, she paused, you become very famous very quickly. Are you ready for that? I wasn't sure how to answer. When we returned, it was Marcus's turn to testify. He took the oath with a steady voice, sat down, and proceeded to lie for 90 minutes straight. He claimed the legacy server was a security test, that the foreign sale was preliminary, discussions that never reached serious stages. That Dr. Chen had willingly licensed her research and the cease and desist letter was a misunderstanding. But here's what he couldn't explain: the actual documents, the signed contracts, the wire transfer instructions, the emails in his own words. Every time he tried to spin, a committee member would quote his own email back to him. I watched him deflate in real time, his lawyers frantically passing notes that he ignored. The final blow came from Congressman Michael Torres from New York, a former prosecutor who'd been quiet most of the hearing. Mr. Thornwell, you've testified that your security system was state-of-the-art and that any breach would require nation-state level resources. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Then can you explain how an 18-year-old girl with a laptop built from spare parts accessed your personal email server, your financial records, and your network architecture in less than 6 months? Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, looked at his lawyers. They had nothing. The circumstances were unusual. She had physical access that a normal attacker wouldn't. So your security was only unhackable if nobody could physically enter your building. The building where you employed cleaning staff, maintenance workers, delivery personnel, and hundreds of employees with varying levels of clearance. That's not what Mr. Thornwell, yes or no? Did Sofia Vasquez, working alone with consumer-grade equipment, breach your supposedly impenetrable security system? A long pause, then barely audible, yes. No further questions. As the hearing adjourned, I walked past Marcus in the hallway. He was surrounded by his legal team, all talking at once. But he stopped when he saw me. "You destroyed everything I built," he said quietly. I looked at him. Really looked at him, this man who'd built an empire on lies and theft, who'd tried to ruin my mother because we were convenient scapegoats, who'd sold out his country for billions of dollars. "No," I said. "You destroyed it yourself." I just turned on the lights, then I walked away, leaving Marcus Thornwell standing in the hallway of the building where his empire officially ended, February 3rd, 2024. The indictment dropped like a bomb. 18 federal charges against Marcus Thornwell: wire fraud, conspiracy to commit espionage, theft of intellectual property, violation of the Arms Export Control Act, combined sentence potential over 200 years. I watched U.S. Attorney Jennifer Wallace at the press conference, her voice unwavering. Marcus Thornwell defrauded clients of $3.2 billion while planning to transfer encryption keys protecting our national security to foreign adversaries. Marcus's mugshot flashed on screen. Gray jumpsuit, disheveled hair, hollow eyes, bail denied, flight risk. Mom squeezed my hand. "Is it wrong that I don't feel sorry for him?" "No, Mom, it's not." The dominoes fell fast after that. Derek Vancourt arrested 3 days later for conspiracy and obstruction. He'd known about the foreign sale for 8 months. Paul Hendricks, security clearance revoked permanently. Career over. Trevor Ashford, fired, blacklisted from Silicon Valley. Bradley Patterson, terminated for helping fabricate Mom's dismissal paperwork. His wrongful termination lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice. Board members face $470 million in shareholder lawsuits. 3 resigned. 2 banned from corporate boards forever, but the real damage showed when clients learned the truth. The Department of Defense discovered their military encryption keys had been days from Chinese control. 3 generals resigned in disgrace. The NSA had to rebuild systems from scratch. Cost to taxpayers, $1.4 billion. Banks, hospitals, energy companies, all betrayed. The lawsuits multiplied daily. March 15th, Thornwell Technologies filed bankruptcy. $8 billion valuation reduced to $340 million in liquidation. 1,200 innocent employees lost their jobs. That part haunted me. But then I'd remember Dr. Sarah. Chen never got a second chance. April 22nd brought vindication. The Sarah Chen Memorial Scholarship launched at MIT, $50 million from the Chen family's settlement against Thornwell's estate. Full rides for women and minorities studying cryptography and cybersecurity. Dr. Chen's sister thanked the brave young woman who exposed the truth during the live stream. Announcement. Mom cried beside me. Sarah would be proud. 2 weeks later, the FBI letter arrived. No charges for unauthorized access. Instead, a conditional hire offer with their cyber division, pending my degree completion. Help us understand how young hackers think, the recruiter said. Test our systems. Maybe become a full agent someday. I need to finish Stanford first. We know. We'll wait. Stanford. Full scholarship reinstated. Personal letter from the dean. We would be honored to count you among our students. Mom framed it next to her citizenship certificate. Late May brought the final piece. Attorney James Chen called about the Chen Family Foundation, protecting researchers and whistleblowers in tech. They wanted me on the advisory board. There's something else, he said. Sarah kept journals. From 2020, after sending her cease and desist, I know he'll probably win. Men like him always do. But I have to believe that someday someone will care enough to fight back. Tears burned my eyes. Someone did. When I hung up, Mom stood in the doorway watching me. "You okay, mija?" I nodded. Better than okay. Marcus Thornwell sat in federal prison. His empire ashes. His name synonymous with fraud. Everyone he'd hurt now knew the truth. The cleaning lady's daughter had taken down a billionaire. I'd learned the most important lesson. Your background doesn't define you. What matters is what you do when given the chance to fight back. Marcus gave me that chance when he tried to destroy my mother, and I took it. September 2024, Stanford University. I walked across campus with a new laptop over my shoulder, gift from the FBI with a note, "For legitimate hacking only." Nobody here knew who I was. Just another freshman in jeans and a hoodie. Exactly how I wanted it. Sofia Vasquez. Professor Linda Okafor, head of cybersecurity, approached. "I wanted to introduce myself. What you did took remarkable courage. I'm teaching a seminar on ethical hacking next semester. Would you give a guest lecture? 6 months ago, I was invisible. Now a Stanford professor wanted me to teach. I'd be honored. Also, 3 cybersecurity startups want you to consult. They need someone who knows how to break systems." I smiled. After I catch up on being a normal college student first, my phone buzzed. "Mom, first day going well?" She'd started a new job last week, building manager at a tech incubator. Better pay, better hours, health insurance. The job she deserved years ago, going great. "Love you." That afternoon, in my first computer science lecture, half the class looked bored during the network security discussion. I stayed quiet, taking notes. No need to prove anything anymore. After class, a nervous freshman approached. "You're Sofia Vasquez, right? Could you give me advice on getting into cybersecurity?" I looked at him, probably told by someone he wasn't good enough or connected enough. Start with fundamentals. Learn how systems work before breaking them. The best researchers aren't the ones with flashiest exploits. They're the ones who care about protecting people. He thanked me 3 times and rushed off. Maybe teaching wouldn't be so bad. That evening, I joined the Sarah Chen Foundation's first advisory board meeting via video call. 12 faces on screen. I was the youngest by 2 decades. Dr. Chen's sister Margaret announced, "Our first initiative is a legal defense fund for researchers facing corporate retaliation. 7 applications already. I'd like to propose something," I said. "A secure reporting platform, anonymous, encrypted. The researchers can expose fraud without risking careers first." Margaret's eyes lit up. "Can you build that?" "Yes, but I need help with the legal framework. You'll have it. Let's make sure what happened to Sarah never happens again." Later, my phone rang. "Washington, D.C., area code. Ms. Vasquez?" "Director Chen, FBI Cyber Division." "How's Stanford?" "Really well, sir." "Good. When you're ready, we've got a place for you." "I appreciate it, sir. But right now I can do more good here." Pause. "Smart answer. Keep us posted." I looked around my dorm room. Posters, textbooks, framed photo of Mom at my graduation. 6 months ago, I wiped servers and dodged security guards. Today, I was a Stanford student with job offers, speaking invitations, and a chance to change things. Marcus Thornwell sat in federal prison, facing life imprisonment. His accomplices lost everything. His victims got justice. And me, I was exactly where I belonged, not because someone gave me a handout, not because I was connected or privileged, but because when a billionaire laughed and said, "Hack this and I'll pay 100 million, I typed. His screen went dark. And the world learned that underestimating people is the most expensive mistake you can make. The cleaning lady's daughter wasn't invisible anymore, and I was just getting started. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.